Amy's Norwegian. They are not atheist. I heard all the arguments even used then. I'm Elion, sorry for you. Okay, and some of us are ex-Christians. Yeah, some of us grew out of that. See, when I was a child, I believed in childish things, like a religion. But when I grew up, I put away childish things. You atheists always say that like a cult. Yeah. Well, the difference between a religion and a cult is the number of believers. A tree stump is an atheist. See, yes, but like, are you trying to make the reverse argument that atheists are tree stumps? Norwegians are not atheists. Well, Amy, there are Norwegians who are atheists. Like, it's not, there's no blanket statement about like all Norwegians are or are not this. Do you believe a rock is an atheist? I don't know. Is Dwayne Johnson an atheist? No, I said pagan gods are demons, not you. Oh, okay. No, pagan gods also don't exist, so they're not. Demons don't exist. You were raised Baptist, now atheist, yeah. When I was a child, I was an atheist. Then I grew up. No. You were wrong about the Norwegians and Vikings were not atheists. I bet you were a Protestant. I believed in God for the same reason I believe in Santa, because I was told he exists. So you believe all Muslims are stupid. Ingi, if you're asking me that, no. Fairy tales make you an adult. No, people believing... I don't think that people are stupid for believing things. I have a very contentious relationship with the notion of stupidity. Yes, Nashline. It is the Rocket City Trash Pandas. Yes, Muslims believe in Allah. And Allah is not like a proper name. It's the term for God. I went to church as a kid, but I was never interested in it. How are you able to say they are false? They are as false as they are true, and they are as false and true as every other god. You really don't understand history. They believed in gods, meaning they believed in something above. Some of them did. That's the thing. Like, historically, you can't say that historically all Norwegians believed or did not believe a thing. There have been Norwegians who were atheists, and there have been Norwegians who weren't. You know why I don't try to convert atheists? Because they never listen. You know what, Far? If you want to have a go, I will listen. Here's the thing: I've heard whatever argument you're going to make. I've heard it before, and it didn't convince me then, and so it's not going to convince me now. If you can present to me an argument that I've never heard before, I would be fascinated. I would be so interested to hear an argument I've never heard before. But like, I've hit a point in my life, I've heard so many arguments and so many claims that like I've heard them. Oh, you're saying Vikings specifically. But that's the thing. There were atheist Vikings. There were absolutely Vikings who did not believe in the gods. Little boy argument. Stop repeating slogans. Yeah, your heart seething. We can present your argument with a sword. Okay, I've got the argument. I believe in God, not Allah. Someone... Okay. Am I allowed to believe in God? Luca, you're allowed to believe in whatever you want. Even if I present them, you would trample on the pearls I cast. Oh, so now it goes from you won't listen to you told me you'll listen, but now I don't want to tell you. I mean, if you don't want to tell me, you don't have to. That's the thing. I have lived long enough, and I've had this conversation with enough people. I have been fascinated with this concept since I was in middle school. So I've been having this conversation for 30 years. I will tell you, I'm willing to bet you can't tell me an argument I haven't heard. I'm willing to bet that. Yeah, no, Luca, absolutely. And I wouldn't say your belief is not wrong. Whether or not your belief is objectively true is a different scenario than whether or not you believe a thing. You can believe a thing that's not true, and you can believe a thing that is true. Like, our belief does not affect reality. Whether or not a thing exists is separate from whether or not we believe that it exists. Goalpost. Exactly, Jonathan. Yeah. You never listen. Okay, I'll listen. Well, you're just gonna... Okay, right. Let's see. It's not a gift, it's a chain of mental slavery. Your blood testifies to truth. That's poetic and slightly meaningless. I think that guy is a troll. I've seen him in other lives. Oh, I'm sure. Far from him. Have you heard the transcendental argument? Here's my argument. Okay. I've got two arguments coming in now. The transcendental argument, yes, but please reframe it. Amy's going to make an argument. What is it? Don't Google it. The Inquisition obtained confessions. Suddenly, okay, I'm not gonna. Religion makes people gullible and fearful. Fluff, I honestly don't think that's true. And gullible and fearful aren't necessarily like they feel very negative to me. Religion gives people comfort, and it's people who they just it's not a failing. It is the way that people are wired. I am wired in a particular way. Someone who believes is wired in a particular way. Someone who believes can't choose to rewire themselves to not believe. And someone who doesn't believe can't rewire themselves to believe. They can play along. I played along for decades. But like the fact that I say I believe something doesn't mean I actually believe it. The transcendental argument for God. Have you heard this one before? Undoubtedly, I probably didn't hear it called the transcendental argument. It makes people believe things on faith and not evidence, out of fear of the consequences. Bearded Ninja, welcome! Yeah, it's been a while. I was live last Friday, and that was the first time I had been live in a live stream since like July of 2022. No, you didn't win the bet because you didn't tell me what the transcendental argument is. Like, I could ask you, have you heard the Copenhagen interpretation? If you haven't heard it called that, you don't know. You might have heard it and just not heard it given that name. Lime believes in yourself, absolutely. I believe in you, Lime. Unless you're a bot, and even if you're a bot, you're still there. Ninja is almost to 1,000. I miss these live streams so much, man. So did I. That's why I came back. I know, but the greatest you know of, I'm still trying to find a good one. I've heard it. I don't know what it is. So you're wired not to believe. I'm wired with a certain threshold of evidence. And if the evidence presented for a claim doesn't meet that threshold, it's not going to compel me to think that thing is true. I didn't choose the threshold, so it's just the neurochemical makeup of my brain. Have you kept up with any recent comic news? Some. I sort of catch it randomly. I did just see The Flash. The transcendental argument for the existence of God is the argument that attempts to prove the existence of the Christian God by arguing that logic, morals, and science ultimately presuppose a supreme being and that the Christian God must therefore be the source of logic and morals. Oh yeah, I've heard it. I've never seen an argument that substantiates it. That would be like me saying that the existence of morals requires that my cat is like the most powerful creature in the universe. Yeah, there's so much literature out there. It's like when I get Pascal's wager. Pascal's wager was debunked by the people that Pascal knew in his own lifetime. Now, 400 years later, I get it thrown at me as if it's like some brand new breakthrough. It's like, no, it's always been a bad bet. I did watch Across the Spider-Verse. I have never cursed so hard at a cliffhanger as I did at the end of Across the Spider-Verse. So basically a worse version of the cosmological argument. Right, yeah, exactly. For the double feature, you're going, I'm not going to see Barbie. Oppenheimer, I kind of want to see. God is inside of us, not some dude above. I mean, God's an idea. The gods are all ideas. All the literature's read him on. I vehemently dispose of Pascal's wager. No, Pascal's wager has never been a good bet. Do you believe in the multiverse theory? I'm intrigued by it. If there were it's like one of those, it's a scientific concept where if there was evidence for it, I'd be like, that is fascinating and I'm here for it. I don't know that I've read enough on it to know if like the quantum mechanical data is there to really be like, yes, that actually is the case. Barbie first, then Oppenheimer. Ooh, I keep accidentally almost blocking people. If you believe we came from anything, the Big Bang, there was something before that. Yeah, the universe. Who is my favorite character in Across the Spider-Verse? Bearded. You're setting me up. You know it was Hobie. Hobie was the breakout character in Across the Spider-Verse. The other world, yeah, the many worlds hypothesis is absolutely fascinating. And you'll keep saying there was something before, but what was before? Before the Big Bang, the universe. The hypothesis is that the universe is eternal and that it expands and contracts. The Big Bang, the most recent one, was just the most recent expansion. Before that was the previous incarnation of the universe that had expanded and contracted. And before that was the previous one. And it just goes back eternally and it goes forward eternally. The universe itself is eternal. Do you think if I had a deductive case, it would make your entire world shift in one night? I think here's an interesting. So I would love to hear your case. Here's the thing. If there is an all-knowing deity and an all-powerful deity, then that deity knows exactly how to convince me that it exists. It also knows that a random stranger on the internet telling me something is not going to convince me. And so I've hit a point where I realize that anyone who is trying to convince me that a God exists isn't. They're not speaking on behalf of a God, because any all-knowing, all-powerful God would not be using a random stranger on the internet to impart that information to me. They would download it into me in a way that would be incontrovertible. I would not be able to deny it. So, I mean, I'd actually absolutely love to hear your case. Do I think if a deductive case? No, I don't think you can shift my entire worldview in one night. That's not to say you can't. I don't think you can. The universe could have always existed in some infinitely small primordial form. Hobie was fantastic. What was before? I got to catch up. What was before what? The Big Bang? Us. What did I think of Miguel as the antagonist? Oh, he was great too. The way that you write things off shows your approach. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I'm totally down for Far being here as a troll. My engagement level is not going to be full. Like, me and Amy have been talking for 2.5 hours now. You already believe in a steady state theory in eternal universe. I think it is the most likely explanation that accounts for all the facts. I've read and seen the Big Bounce isn't the leading theory in astrophysics. No, it's not. You are correct. The eternal universe hypothesis is by far my favorite, but the multiverse hypothesis is also great. Yep. Because I know the outcome is fruitless, I'm only having a good time on here. Go to infinity with universes. What happens before? There is no before. If you're talking about like, so the question seems to be then, what was before the first incarnation of the universe? There wasn't. There was no first. Before every incarnation of the universe was a previous incarnation of the universe. The universe exists eternally. Remember when Marvel said null was before the birth of the universe? Yeah. Those are some mighty high standards. Well, see, part of the problem is you're talking about a mighty high being. Like, an all-knowing, all-powerful God that exists, letting me know that it exists in a way I can't deny is the simplest possible thing. Because if a being is all-powerful and all-knowing, it knows exactly how to do it, and it can do it. So that's not a high standard at all. That's the bare minimum. You can only go back 13.8 billion years. You shouldn't pretend to know things we don't. I'm defeating my purpose. I choose my purpose. Is it just me or did the video freeze? The video might have frozen because as I'm scrolling to catch up with the messages, I keep tapping people's profiles and it'll pop up the thing where it's like, block this person. I'm like, no, I'm not trying to block anybody. And I think it's freezing when I do that. Do you have any theories for Beyond the Spider-Verse or any characters you want to see? I want to see. Oh, there was somebody, and I can't remember who it was. I want to see the Victorian era Mayday Parker and the Victorian era Black Cat. Far From Home, Far From Here admits, I'm a troll. I guess it's okay. I've heard it before, and I'm proud. I mean, I literally invited trolls in my promo video today. I said, let's see if we can manage to lure a few trolls in. That's what that is. It's troll bait. Like, I'm not... the end is... I'm good now. I love chili cheese fries! Yeah, Sonny. Disco fries are solid. Knowledge about the before is not. It's true. Yeah, no, we can't know. Sonny, you cannot be my wife. No. I am sorry. Do I have any opinions on MCU and DCEU right now? I do, Bearded. So the DCEU continues to disappoint as much as it ever did, but no more. So I saw The Flash. The trailer for The Flash looked amazing, and I was so excited for that movie. And that, of course, is my fault. I went in there with extremely high expectations. And it was good. It was decent. Not great. Which is not entirely fair, because a lot about the movie really, really was good. Like, Michael Keaton, fantastic. Superwoman, fantastic. The villain, the true identity of the villain, the visual representation of going back in time through the Speed Force, through the temporal bubble like that, like, all of it was fantastic. My least favorite part of the Flash movie was Barry, which is, like, not good for a movie. But I did enjoy the movie. I didn't dislike it. I didn't feel like, oh man, I just wasted 2.5 hours. The MCU, it pains me to say, is disappointing me now more than before. And it still does. I feel like the continuation properties, like Black Panther, Multiverse of Madness, Guardians 3, I have enjoyed as much as previously. That's not tough because Shang-Chi I really did enjoy. Eternals I enjoyed, but it was a lot longer than it needed to be. Black Widow I really did enjoy. It feels like it lost a lot of the energy, which it obviously did. I mean, they closed out an entire saga. But I had gone into Phase 4 excited because it felt like going into Phase 1, where we don't know what's coming. And maybe I'm just impatient. Maybe I want to know what's coming up now. Part of it too, though, is knowing that real world events are going to alter what's happening. Jonathan Majors might be leaving, and they're going to be altering Kang's storyline. Although that's going to be like the central story of the next Avengers movies. So like, I think part of it right now is feeling up in the air and feeling like, like they are having to make choices on the directions of the films that aren't necessarily informed by story decisions. Let me catch up. Oh, I'm 9 behind. Matthew 7:6. Ben, you just throw in. All right, I'll look up Matthew 7:6, Ben. Is this the pearls before swine? Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. Well, see, that's a really dehumanizing verse, because you're essentially saying that the people who don't agree with you are less than human. You're saying these people, not really people. They're dogs. They're dogs. They're pigs. Now, I regard all life as life. You, as a Christian, you're like, no, dogs and pigs, all the other animals, they're less than human. They were made to be helpers to humans. So you're comparing people to things that are less than people. And you're saying those subhuman people don't deserve the knowledge or the information that it's really dangerous. It's borderline eugenics. It's not a good look. Notice how modern men and boys look up to superheroes and video game characters and not philosophers. That is sad for. It's true. The last great philosopher I knew about, well, no, because we got Neil deGrasse Tyson, but like George Carlin. I consider it a philosopher. I feel like some of our best philosophers now go into comedy because it's a better way to get paid. Yeah, no, trolls are definitely bad faith gadflies. I do not know who Levon Aronian is. DC does television way better than they've done movies, and they did television better than Marvel did, like broadcast television. Marvel's like Netflix properties, fantastic. I am. Was it anti-nationalist? Natalist? I don't know what anti-natalist is unless it's a typo. Anti-natalist is the philosophical position that assigns a negative value judgment to birth and views procreation as immoral. Yeah, I wouldn't say that procreation is immoral, so I am against that philosophy, so I am anti-natalist. Quantumania was a flop. I liked it. It did not do well. Lucifer's casting in the Sandman. DC should ditch the DCEU. The only good movies they produced are not part of the DCEU. You're not wrong. I really like Guardians 3. Yes. Guardians 3 was fantastic. Guardians 3 was brutal. Also, MCU forcing itself to be the main 616 is weird. Bearded? So, I know you saw Across the Spider-Verse. It is now confirmed, and unfortunately it was not confirmed in an MCU movie, but Across the Spider-Verse confirmed that the MCU is Earth 1999-99. Miguel said that he described something that referred specifically to the MCU's Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, and he called it Earth 1999-99. So that's not even a hill I have to die on anymore. I can just stand on that hill and be like, here's the data. Not Pride Promise Rainbow profile pic. I don't know who that's referring to. Yeah, that verse is trash. Yeah. Sup, Nimue? Sup, Tanis? I get it. Can we marry now? No. I miss Carlin. I miss Carlin a lot. Shampoo skit. Yeah, I bet you did get pretty good at axe throwing. Yeah, it's weird how quickly you can get good at it. Like, I remember that by the end of our, me and April, by the end of our first or second hour, we were, like, hitting pretty close to the bin, hitting bullseyes, like, kind of frighteningly frequently. We'll have to arrange that one time where a bunch of us go axe throwing at our own places and all stream it together, or maybe pop it over to Discord. Yeah, Nimue and Dustin, you guys missed out on all the religion talk and all the cosmology talk. Are you straight TikTok or do you have YouTube? So yes, Jonathan, I live stream on TikTok. I'm actually on Discord right now. So if you go to the profile and you go to the link tree, there's it's called the Foxhole, and it's a Discord server, and it has a video chat in there called Live Studio Audience, and I'm on it right now. Or just do audio together. I mean, that would be the ideal scenario. But I do have a YouTube channel. If you go into the link tree, that's called Elsewhere. And last week's first live stream, it was 3 hours, so I broke it up into 3 segments of roughly an hour each. They're all over there. And so that's what I'm going to do each week is download the replay of the stream, break it up, and put it over on YouTube. Put it over on Elsewhere. Are there any canon atheists in Marvel Comics? There are. I've looked that up before. I will look it up again. Category: fictional atheists. Reed Richards, probably. Let's see. I know Brian from Family Guy. This is the weird roundabout way that I have to find things on Wikipedia sometimes. Let's just fictional atheists. There we go. List of fictional atheists and agnostics. Marvel Comics. Beta Ray Bill. Iron Man. Hank Pym. Those are the only 3 this one lists. Let's see if there's a category for it here. There is not. I'm willing to bet that Rocket Raccoon is. Otto Octavius might be an atheist. And see, it's really interesting in the Marvel universe because it is established. I mean, these characters have met cosmic beings, like the Celestials. Arguably, are gods. I mean, the one condition that I have for a god is that it exists outside the universe. He Who Remains would have been a god because he existed not only outside the universe but outside the multiverse, or in the center point of the multiverse. But you've got Celestials that can create worlds. And so it's interesting. But that does go back to the linguistic origin of... Yeah, that goes back to the linguistic origin of atheist. If you met Thor... I mean, and in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Thor is a godlike alien, but he's an alien. He's a extraterrestrial but natural creature. If you... Yeah, the one above all. If you know that a deity exists, you don't believe. So it's a weird place, like linguistically. You're still technically an atheist because you don't believe in the God. You just know it exists. It's like your neighbor. Like you're like, I don't believe that I have a neighbor. I know. Like, I've seen him mowing his grass. Not gonna lie, I feel like new DC comics coming out are going to be actual competition for the MCU soon. The DC movies, I don't know. I don't. And Warner Brothers has to figure itself out. Like, it has to figure out how to make good movies for these characters because they've got some of the most popular characters, some of those popular comic characters, and they just can't seem to figure out how to make a great movie anymore. For Otto in the multiverse, it's shown that he gets the short end of the stick. So the universe minus everything back to when the universe was nothing means it was something. I'd love to see Otto speak to God knowing that, yeah. So the universe minus everything back to when the universe was nothing. No, the universe was never nothing. The universe is everything, always has been everything. Technically not a god, he's an embodiment of the writers. But yeah, if Marvel... So yeah, realistically then, an embodiment of the writers, that's actually kind of a perfect analogy for what I think a god would be. Because the writers of Earth 616, the primary continuity of the comics, exist outside that universe and create things in that universe. That is the definition I would apply to a god. And so, like... Honestly, Deadpool is a fascinating one because he knows he's a fictional character. The Joker in DC, I think in some versions, knows he's a fictional character being written. And so they know about the creators existing in the external universe. The DCU does need to get it together. I want it to be a success. A god, it'd be him. Does that make Otto a dystheist? As in, he has a negative perception of God. I mean, yeah. I like that. Dystheist. A mistheist? Because misanthrope means a person who dislikes people. So the word for it is misotheism, is the hatred of God or hatred of the gods, from the Greek adjective misotheos, hating the gods or God hating, a compound of hatred and God. Yeah. I guess so, because of his parents. DC has James Gunn as one of the CEOs right now, so I feel like they're going to do pretty well. Yeah, I feel like they're in the best position right now to figure out a plan that's going to work. The Deadpool kill series, yeah, isn't amazing at that. You said the universe ends. No, I said this incarnation of the universe will end. Have I seen the recent Amazing Spider-Man run? I haven't. I am so far behind on comics. And I have the Marvel app, which means I can read anything prior to 6 months ago. And I just don't. Misotheism. Yep. I learned that one today. No. And the idea of the universe ending is that, like, it's weird hearing people argue for the existence of God by using the the argument, the conservation of energy and matter, that energy can't be created or destroyed, therefore the universe had to have a creator. That implies the universe did not have a creator, because it implies we know that matter and energy exists, and we know that matter and energy cannot be created or destroyed, which means the matter and energy that we know exist always existed and will always exist. So an incarnation means there was something before. Yes, the previous incarnation of the universe. All of the matter and energy that is this incarnation of the universe was the previous incarnation of the universe in a different formulation. And it was the matter and energy of the previous one before that, and the previous one before that. And before every incarnation was a previous incarnation. There was no first. It goes back eternally and it goes forward eternally. I love whether he's a hero or a villain. Otto totally sees the Avengers as ACAB, right? And I love the storylines that make that argument well. Even out of the game since the 2010s, are Marvel Comics past that worth it? Certain runs absolutely are, and that's I feel like every era of comics is like that. Like we have this rosy nostalgia for certain eras, but there was absolutely crap being published during every era. There are absolutely great runs and great comics being written now. You just kind of have to dig through and find them. Especially X-Men comics now are really worth reading. Yeah. You are using the argument that there was no creator. Who created the previous and previous? No one. There was no creator. It always existed. So, Amy, I will turn that question back on you then. Who because you believe that the universe was created by a creator. What created that creator? Well, I'll answer your question with the answer to my question. Right. So you believe that God created the universe. What created God? Because if your argument is the universe has to have a creator, it can't just exist, then my argument is, okay, then things require creators. So if you say God created the universe, God is a thing. So it requires a creator. So then, like, what created God? I've heard that the X-Men were wiped out in the new series, and that the LGBT plus is extraordinary. So are there any comic series I'm reading right now that I like? Not at the moment. I did just buy all of Teenie Howard's run on Excalibur, X of Swords, Ten of Swords, and Knights of X. And I'm going to be digging into that. Yeah, but the entire Krog... Yeah. Then both of our arguments are incorrect. I don't know how one argument being incorrect would imply the other's incorrect. I'm asking what created your God, because your answer, you have to have one of two answers. Either you're going to tell me a higher God, like a godlier God created your God, or you're going to tell me that nothing created your God. Your God was not created. It always existed. And then my response is going to be, so your position is that there can be things that always existed. And my counter argument is going to be, the universe is that thing. Because I'm going to agree with you. Yes, there are things that can exist eternally. And by Occam's razor, I'm going to say that we know the universe exists. And since we agree that things can exist eternally, and we know that matter and energy can't be created or destroyed, and we know that matter and energy exist, it makes sense to say that the matter and energy that exists in this universe always existed in one form or another, and changed form throughout its eternal existence. Yeah, God's all the way down and God's all the way up. Because you can't prove God or there was nothing before. But it depends on what you mean by before. Because there's this incarnation of the universe, which began at the Big Bang and will end either at heat death or the Big Crunch. And then there's just the existence, the eternal existence of the universe, the totality of all infinite incarnations of the universe. This incarnation of the universe had a before, and before this incarnation was the previous incarnation, and after this incarnation will be the next incarnation. But the totality of the infinite incarnations of the universe doesn't have a before. It is eternal. If I could set up my own Avengers or Guardians team, who would be in it? Rocket Raccoon would be in it. Bucky would be in it. Who else would be in there? The Wasp would be in it. I had a list. Monica Rambeau would be in it. That's the 4. Black Panther would be in it. Doctor Strange would be in it. Yeah, I think that was my 6. Then how was the universe created? It wasn't. I mean, like, we're going round and round. The word created implies a creator. It wasn't created. Change out, in the questions you're asking me, change out the word universe for the word God, because the way you think about your God is the way I think about this universe. The universe always existed. It does not require a creator. It's eternal in both directions. There can't be something from nothing. One, we don't know that, but also an eternal universe doesn't require that. There was never nothing. There was always something. What are my thoughts on the new Physics 2, where we can tell gravitational fluctuations from... I need to read up. I know I just saw Hank Green had a video basically giving like a crash course on the announcement that was going to be made. I didn't watch the whole video, and I need to. Space time. I did write a poem. I really like Cosmic Ghost. See, I did it again. I really like Cosmic Ghost Rider and Agent Venom as members of the Guardians. Oh, Agent Venom was one of my favorite runs. And the funny part is the reason that I started reading Agent Venom was because he moved to Philadelphia, which is my hometown. Your God is the universe. There was always something. That's been my argument the entire time. Not that the universe is God. Like, God is a loaded word. You say God, and whoever you're saying that to is going to make assumptions based on that word. That, like, they're carrying their own baggage into that. So I don't use the word God, because whatever someone else is going to take from that word is not what I'm talking about. In terms of description, that's what I'm saying about the universe, is that people who make the argument, if God is the universe, then that's cool. There is a term for that. Term for the universe as God. Pantheism, the doctrine that the universe conceived of as a whole is God, and conversely that there is no God but the combined substance, forces, and laws that are manifested in the existing universe. So pantheism, God, or whatever you want to believe, there was something before you. Well, of course there was something before you. Like, I don't think that the universe began when I was born. What is my favorite villain redemption story, or story where the villain played a hero? The Darth Vader comics are really, really good with that. There was one story in particular where Vader landed on a planet that was like, there were horrific things going on, and Vader stopped what was good. Like, he basically almost one-man armied against the horrors that were going on, and essentially brought peace to this planet, and left, and was regarded as almost a god. He was regarded as a savior. And it was a really fascinating idea that, like, your notions of a character are based entirely on your experience with them. So these people's entire experience with Vader, this planet's entire experience with Vader as a character was that he was a savior. He came in and saved them from the horrors of their world. You can't W an atheist if you don't believe that. I don't know what that means. I mean, essentially, the crux of me being an atheist is not believing that there's anything outside the universe. That the universe does not require a creator. Therefore, you aren't an atheist. I am an atheist. Like atheist means I don't believe in a God. And when I say God, I mean creationary force that exists outside the universe. You convinced yourself of a point, and I am glad that you were able to do that. So have a great one. Vader was a hero. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I'm especially fascinated by people who want to tell me what I do or do not think or believe, as if it's possible for someone else to know my mind and thoughts better than I do. Like that's why I make that. That's why my videos are so clear and so specific in their language. What do I think about the distinction between atheist and agnostic? I will get back to that in a second. An atheist means you believe there's nothing above you. No, that's not what it means. It means you don't believe in gods, which also relies on your definition of a god. The distinction between atheist and agnostic, yes. So there are two circles that overlap on a Venn diagram. I don't even know that there are two circles. Yeah, there are two circles. So you can agnosticism is about what you can and cannot know, or what you do or do not know, which gets into how you can know things. So it's an epistemological question. Atheism is about what you do or do not believe, which is a subjective issue. And you can be both or you can be neither. So you can be an agnostic atheist, which is me. I don't know and I also don't believe. You can be an agnostic theist. You can be a Christian who says, I don't know these things, but I believe them to be true. I accept them as true, even though I don't have empirical knowledge that they are facts. There was one more. My brain doesn't want to do it right now. You can be a. You can't. I mean, there's an interesting question about whether you can be a Gnostic theist, because a Gnostic theist means you know and believe. And there's an interesting question about whether knowing negates belief, because if you know something, you don't have to believe it; you just know it. Yeah. Some people always need the last laugh. I mean, I'm here. If somebody wants to come in and get the last laugh, I will create the space for that laugh to exist. I get a pretty good laugh too at the end, though. Did she actually leave? I feel like we had a good conversation all the way up to that, and then it felt like that was the moment she was waiting to deliver a gotcha. That she felt like she truly felt like she earned that gotcha, and I did not see the news of the new Star Wars show. I am a terrible I am a casual Star Wars fan. I have accepted that. I watched all the movies, none of the shows. Aw. Like I've never even seen The Mandalorian. Like if there was one show that I should see, it's The Mandalorian. Haven't watched that yet. And then I think Ahsoka spinned off of that one. I think Ahsoka spun off of that one. Yeah. I had a family member who we would have those late night conversations, and he would tell me that at certain points in conversations that I was not allowed to actually articulate an opinion on a certain point because I didn't believe something, or I didn't accept his claim, and because I didn't accept his claim, I was essentially not. I was allowed to have an opinion, but I wasn't allowed to insert my opinion into the conversation. And I was like, yeah, this is very much not gonna work. Did I ever see the plans that Lucas had for the sequel trilogy? I don't think I did. Honestly, I won't say anything else would have been better, but I came out of that first movie and I enjoyed that. So I came out of the seventh movie and I enjoyed it, but over time, I was like, you had the entire galaxy before you. You could have done anything, and you chose to retread the exact same story. Yeah. Luke's story was probably the most interesting to me. Yeah. Luke's trajectory was the most interesting thing I found the most interesting out of everything they did there. Because it didn't have him, I know the expanded universe, the novels, essentially had him falling in the end, right? Like he went dark, and then his children. I don't remember. I didn't read the books, but I had kind of read up on them at one point. Um, I liked the trajectory they took him in the movies compared to that. Like the idea of him sort of accepting that as long as there were Jedi, there were going to be Sith, and so retirement was the only option. Exiling himself was the only option. I mean, and it paralleled what Yoda did in a way, because Yoda exiled himself to Dagobah, just left the universe to the horrors of the Empire. You're not wrong, Nimue. I will be dipping out. I will be shutting down in 11 minutes. Spoiler alert. You're right. Yeah, spoiler alert. Vader is Luke's father. Didn't want to break anybody's hearts on that one, but he is. Do I know about Mortis gods in regards to Star Wars? I don't. And it's funny, I did do a lot of research on... I know! Which, that I do remember reading up on Lucas's original plans. That was not Lucas's original plan. Yeah, right. Lucas's original script for the first Star Wars movie had Anakin and Vader as two distinctly different characters, like two distinctly different people. He changed that up when Star Wars was as popular as it was, and they made the second movie. The idea of Luke and Leia being twins and of them being Vader's kids was created later. Luke wanted Ben to kill Luke's wife. That's That's Mara Jade. Yeah. Yeah, there are so many books. I'll never get around to reading. I would love. There are so many books. If I had a time machine, that's what I've said. If I had a time machine, I would use it to catch up on all the things. Like I would go back in time a month and just relive that whole month. Just stay at the house or like do things. Like, oh, I need to read all these books. I need to watch all these shows. I need to see all these movies. If Anakin was the father, then Luke's the daughter. Light side. Leia is the son, the dark side. Or maybe they're just both gray. It was funny because I made a whole bunch of videos. I have a playlist called The Journal of the Wills of a whole bunch of Star Wars videos that I had to do the research because it wasn't stuff that I knew. It wasn't like this was my fandom and I know all this stuff. I had to do a lot of reading and scripting for all that stuff. Yeah. No, my big hope with Rise of Skywalker, and I kind of knew they weren't going to do it because it was that situation where I was like, as a writer, this is what I would do, was that I was hoping when that title came out, Rise of Skywalker, was my first thought was Skywalker was a slave name. It was Shmi's name as a slave. And so I was like, well, that means it existed as a word prior to her having it as a family name or Luke taking it as a family name. So I was like, what did Skywalker mean before it became a family name? And I thought that that's what was going to be examined in the movie. And it was going to be this idea, almost like a Skywalker was someone who found true balance between the two extremes of light and dark. It was someone who found a way to walk in both worlds. And it was the idea that someone who walks the sky moves in the darkness between the light of the stars. And of course, they didn't look at any of that. They just brought back Palpatine because that's what they decided to do. Noob question: is the dark side of the Force inherently evil? I feel like yeah. If they had one director for all three films, it would have been more cohesive at the very least. Or is it just used in an evil way? Dark side pulls the worst parts of yourself, right? Yeah. Sometimes I get blocked and I don't know why. I love the fact that Yoda wanted to train Leia instead of Luke. Yeah. No, the dark side, yes, pulls on the darker emotions. So it pulls on greed and jealousy and hate and anger. And so it pulls on more destructive emotions. And so it's not inherently evil, but it's very, very easy to be evil when you're dipping into that well. And I say this is someone who grew out of an anger management or grew out of a temper. It is inherently evil. It corrupts absolutely. But there was, I remember reading about, I can't remember what it was called. There was a character, there we go, Darth Tenebris. Was a Sith master of Darth Plagueis. Tenebris was suspected of having designed the Scimitar, the personal starship of Darth Maul. But he is regarded as a not evil Sith. I'm pretty sure he was the only one ever regarded that way. I can't remember, but like he used, essentially he used the dark side, but not for destructive or evil purposes. Per George. Yeah, but George has contradicted himself a bunch of times. See, but the problem is, too, that George Lucas's idea of balance is the destruction of the Sith and the rule of the Jedi, which isn't balance. What you ended up with in The Last Jedi, with there being no Sith and no Jedi, or the correct balance, like an even balance of light and dark, is balance. If you want to say that the destruction, the goal is the destruction of evil, okay, you could say that. But if you want to say that the goal is balance, you can't destroy the evil side and just let the good side run. Yeah, I mean, we were down to just Luke. And then he upset the balance. That was one of the I think it was Last Jedi that had that Rashomon moment. He upset the balance when he tried to rebuild the Jedi. Oh yeah, they 100%. I think it was called, started with a Q. The Kotsisajak was the name for the Sith code. But I feel like that's what they were driving at in The Last Jedi. That essentially Luke was going the same direction that they had gone by the time they reached episode 3, right? Yeah, where they had the council, and it was this huge bureaucracy, which was imbalance. And by rebuilding that, he's like, I'm going to rebuild the Jedi Order, and it's like that's exactly what led to everything that happened in Revenge of the Sith. I see those emojis. Lucas's idea for the sequel trilogy wanted Leia as the main character against Maul as the big bad. I would be interested in it. I was just, when I realized, like, and the 7th movie lampshaded it so hard that they just rebuilt the Empire. They called it the First Order. They rebuilt the Death Star. I'm blanking on what they called it. It was the Galaxy Destroyer, whatever they called it. It was the exact same story, and I felt like there was so many more interesting things they could have done, and just didn't. I do need to make you a mod. How do I make you a mod? I'm going to have to look that up. It's probably extremely easy. Nimue is number 1. I'll click on your name. You click on my nose. Ready? Go ahead. There's a whole deep dive on how the OG score was misused in the sequels. How do you think Marvel or DC would write the Force if it was in their universes? I think the Guardians of the Galaxy have essentially done that. Wait, no. No, I'm sorry. Doctor Strange. Essentially, the magic users of the Marvel Universe are using the Marvel version of the Force. So you got Doctor Strange, Wanda, Agatha. They just call it's their chaos magic. Which might be why. So yeah, I do like the breakdown that Doctor Strange is a wizard, Wanda is a sorcerer, and who's a warlock? Have I read Kushal's Ghost Ride Supreme? No, I have not. Guardians 3 is the best. Fight me. I can't fight you. It was the best. Now I'm biased because Rocket is my favorite character in the Guardians franchise. But like those movies, and I've shed tears at several Marvel movies, but like the first Guardians movie, I shed legitimate tears over a raccoon and a tree, and I was like, how dare you, Marvel? And then in this one, I shed legitimate tears over a raccoon and a rabbit and an otter and a walrus. The second one I actually did not. The second one didn't get me the same way that the first and the third ones did. The third one got me worse than the first one, though. But yeah. No, I have not read Ghost Ride Supreme. I haven't read Cosmic Ghost Rider. What about when we could finally understand Groot? You mean at the very, very, very end? Yeah. I love you guys. Yeah, so I think those are the only two times he said anything other than I am Groot. When he said we are Groot in the first one, and then when he said I love you guys in the third one. I don't think he said anything other than that. Groot looks so huge in the post-credits. He does. I think you click up. I think I made you a moderator. Member. Manage moderator access. Yeah, I made you moderator. It says manage moderator access now. You have fundamental access, comment settings, mute accounts, block accounts, and you can pin comments. There you go. Yeah, WandaVision also got me really emotional too. Yeah. WandaVision was so good. Wanda is probably my favorite anti-hero in Marvel. Deadpool gets a lot of the credit, but Wanda is probably my absolute favorite. And she's one of the most philosophically interesting to me because Ant-Man was the only one I didn't like in Phase 4. That's fair. The fictional character I wanted... Oh, no. Which character was that? No, Wanda's so philosophically fascinating to me because if you have the ability... Oh, I know. To alter reality with a thought, even accidentally alter reality with a thought, then how can you know what is and is not real? Like it's almost impossible to know what is and is not real. And like it's a very interesting philosophical and moral question. I'm really interested where they're going to take Shuri next. Oh yeah, Tech in the Star Wars the Bad Batch. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Shuri and well, we're getting Monica in the next Marvel's movie. I'm interested, and I know a lot of people don't care, but I'm interested to see if they're going to do anything with Jane Foster, because they set up what they did in the comics, which was she became a Valkyrie, and I would love to see them do that in the movies. But we'll see. Yeah, I mean, Shuri is supposed to be one of the smartest. I think Riri Williams and Shuri are in at least the top 5 of the most intelligent characters in the Marvel Universe. Monica Rambeau is such an underrated character. She needs to be put in more comics. That is also true. Nimwe's calling me out. She's saying it's time to shut down. But I've got a dozen people in here. I don't want to shut down right after Jeffrey showed up. That'd be impolite. Is it time up or complimenting your sleek hourglass figure? Not complimenting my hourglass figure. Do I have a favorite spider person from the comics? Spider-Gwen I think is my favorite. Hobie is probably one of my favorite, like, smaller, like, not a big arc character, but Spider-Gwen is probably my favorite, yeah. Right, just an hour a week. Just an hour a week. The Ship of Theseus. Yes, and we've officially come back around to the Ship of Theseus, because we were talking about that earlier, in terms of all of us being atomically ships of Theseus. And so I think that is an excellent point to wrap up on. I will be back next Friday, whether it's 1 hour or 3 hours. We'll see. This will get uploaded over to YouTube over the next week. I'll probably do it sooner than I did last time, because last week there were spoilers for our Tuesday game, and so I didn't want to upload it until after Tuesday. Good night, Jonathan. Yeah. Yes, we will chat again on next Friday. What's the date? Doesn't really matter what the date is, but it'll be July 7th. And I'll do a preview, because I love my previews. I have my Tuesday night previews, the recap, the pre-cap, and then I'll have my little preview on Friday. So you guys will see me when you see me, and I will talk to you then.